After all of the trauma of almost getting sacked by Alfreton and being told we only had 5 games to save ourselves, we've fallen on our feet. We've got a new job. We're heading down to the Conference South, which means we need to pack all of our stuff into the back of our little estate car and troops down. Hold on. Troops down. What road is this? The M5? How do you leave Alfreton and get to Bath? This is, I don't know why we're all the way up here in Chesterfield at the start. We got to go up to so we go up to Chesterfield, and that must be the M1, is it? We're coming down that, past Birmingham, all the way down here to Bath, which is very, very, very south. It's 160 miles away from Alfreton. It's over 3 hours on a drive. We obviously can't commute from our lovely little house that we've got up in Alfreton, but worry not, we have had a pay rise. We're now on £375 a week, or just shy of £20,000 a year, using a standard income multiplier of 4 times salary to work out what size mortgage I can get so we can buy ourselves a nice little house down in Bath. I'm getting all excited about the new bigger house that I'm going to get after living in the tiny little place up in Alfreton on our lower salary. So I went onto Rightmove to see what I could get for £80,000 in Bath. Going to be living in a garage. I wonder what that's going to be like. Hello and welcome to Club 2 Part 1 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode we're going to have a look at my summer transfers with Bath City, which I guess we should be saying Bath City because they're down south and they probably say Bath, but I'm going to say Bath because I talk properly. And we'll do our first game of the season as well. If you have no idea why I'm now manager of Bath, I can't even say it. This is going to be a real problem. Can I just call them Bath? B-A-F, Bath City. If you're confused why I'm not still at Alfreton, you need to go and watch the last couple of episodes that have come out the last few days in this series. The main Non-League to Legend playlist will continue, obviously, because it is a continuation of our life at Alfreton. But we are starting anew with new numbering at a new club. Kev loves in episode 1. I'm like the YouTube version of Marvel Comics. Right, I've had some very specific bits already on today's video. I apologise if you're not a nerd in the same way I'm a nerd. You've probably already turned off. Thinning the herd, just getting my audience. That's what I'm doing here. Do you want to see some transfers anyway? Because we had a little look at them yesterday. I had a look at the squad and we noticed that although it was quite a decent talent pool, a lot of them were out of contract in the summer, and most of them I decided to let leave and just have a completely clean slate. What that's meant is dynamics isn't great. The players don't really like me at all, which is troubling because our season preview is that we're going to get into the playoffs, and the board are looking for that as a minimum as well. So if we have a look at board competition performance, they're looking for minimum expectation is to reach the playoffs. They're reserving judgment on me. So we need to have a good season and we need to get off to a good start. We let a couple of players leave. That doesn't tell the whole story because I think we need to go back to the last seat. There is more than 2 players left. Do we have to show contract expiries? Released players. So them lot all left as well. There were a few free transfers. I mean, there wasn't a massive squad to begin with, but those guys left at the end of their contracts, and then these 2 went to specific clubs. These were transfers that were already arranged when I arrived at the club. Particularly would have liked to have kept Dan Ball, but apparently he'd already decided he was going off to Bray Wanderers, which was frustrating because he's been at Bath a long, long time and was a key player, and I would have liked to have built a team around him at left back. He was our key player, our captain, and now he's gone away. But I have taken the opportunity to spend the very limited wage budget I was given to bring in a selection of new players. Firstly, a bunch of free transfers, then just filling out the gaps in the squad with loan players. Finance-wise, we are over our wage budget. We only got a wage budget of just over £5,000 a week. We've gone like £300 a week over it. I couldn't not, because the last player that I brought in, I had to bring in. Which was this guy. I mean, yeah, not the last one. I brought in 2 more afterwards, but this guy was a little bit outside of my budget at £425 a week, but I think he's going to be a proper star for us. He's probably my signing of the summer, I think. Real Ovenden, 20-year-old Welsh under-21 international, 3.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. He's been at Watford and Chesterfield and Brighton in real life. He had a season at Worthing, below non-league, or below National League South. I don't really know why he dropped that far down, because he's a proper player and he's considerably better than anyone else we've got at the club in the centre of midfield. So I'm really happy with him as a signing. But I think we've done fairly well fixing the gaps in the squad all the way through. So Joe Cook is a 19-year-old centre-back, 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. He'll come in as a backup player for us. He played half a season, a third of a season for Poole in this league last year. He's probably our first reserve when it comes to centre-backs. And I think for the amount of money we got him for, we were definitely bargain hunting. £120 a week. I think that's a good signing to bring in. Danny Mills is hopefully going to be a goal machine for us. 27 years old, former posh player, albeit not for very long. Very expensive, and I mean £350 a week is a lot of money out of our total wage budget, but he's 3.5-star current ability. He is better than any of the strikers we've currently got here, and the thing that really attracted me to him is this long running history he's got of scoring a lot of goals in this league that we're playing in. He's had 5 years at Whitehawk and done 12, 18, 18, 23 and 15 goals. He was at Ebbsfleet last year in the league above us and didn't play a single game. But Ebbsfleet finished third, I think, in the National League last year. Can we jump back a season? Does it let us do that? No, we probably just needed to look at there you go. Ebbsfleet finished fourth last season, lost in the playoff final. So yeah, he wasn't getting any games, but he was playing at a higher level, and you know, I think he'll be good. The thing I really like about him, you'll remember from the last episode, one of our issues as a club is that we don't win the ball in the air. Danny Mills is 6'5" with a jumping reach of 18. Yeah, his heading's only 8, but he's a good finisher and he's also quick as well. He's as close as we're going to get at this level to a complete forward. He's a giant who's fast with good acceleration and decent finishing. I mean, if he doesn't score 30 goals this season, I don't understand what makes a good striker at this level. So I think he's going to be a cracking signing. Will Britt comes in as a reserve keeper, 23-year-old Gibraltarian international, 2 caps for Gibraltar, 2-star current ability, 3.5-star potential. He was at Southampton. There was a couple of decent young reserve keepers I could have brought in. It would have been nice to replace Ashmore with a slightly better goalkeeper than 3-star, but just couldn't afford it, couldn't justify doing it. He's on £300 a week. He couldn't drop down to a reserve at that kind of money. He's another one who was at Ebbsfleet. And I guess he'll have to do for this season. Elvis Otim is a winger, because despite all that talk that I had about how we were going to perhaps play a more narrow system, what a bad person. One moment. That's what happens if you try and record videos on Black Friday. You keep getting phone calls. Shall I buy this? Shall I buy this? No, everyone knows that if there's any money to be spent, we'll spend it on another right back. Elvis Otim. Yeah, as I was saying, or Otim. I wasn't going to play with wingers at all. I kind of told you that yesterday. I've got a Non-League to Legend extra episode coming out tomorrow about tactics, where I spent a lot of time before I did all these transfers showing you how I develop a new tactic at a club. And I decided in that we're not going to do wide players. And then, without my knowledge, a player that I was going to let go, Jack Compton, because he's on £550 a week. Yes, he's the best player at the club, but he's a left winger, he's 29. I was going to sacrifice him to free up some more space in our squad. It just announced that he'd signed a new contract, so it must have been offered before I arrived. So as soon as we decided to tie him down for another year as our best player, our highest paid player, we've had to have a tactical rethink, and we're playing with wingers. But by that point, I'd already told the other wingers that they were being released, so I had to sign a replacement. I think we've done quite well. Elvis Otim, 20-year-old Ugandan, right midfielder, can also play right wing or down the middle as well. 3.5-star current ability, 5-star potential ability. Pretty much, on the right-hand side at least, as good as Compton. Compton's more of a left-sided player. Was at Nottingham Forest, got released by them. He's never played a match, but, you know, hopefully he'll be marvellous. If not, oops. But, you know, he's a decent, quickish winger. That'll do me fine. And then also, we've signed a left-back to replace that other fellow. What's his name? Dan Ball. We needed a left-back because our captain and best left-back, we were so strong on the left-hand side before Ball left. And I think Adam Osborne's going to fill that gap for us. 19 years old, 3.5-star current ability, 5-star potential again. He's quick. I like a quick fullback. He was at Wolves. He comes in on a free. Similar situation to Otim in there. He's been in the Championship, but never played a game at that level. So he's a bit of a gamble. But when you've got the amount of money that we've got to spend, and you can pick these players up for these kind of salaries, then he's not the right one. He's on loan. Then you kind of have to take a little bit of a gamble on these players and think, well, it's not a massive amount of money. We can't really afford very much. Those two players are the reason we're over our wage budget. Just filling in extra gaps with promising youngsters. And it is a very, very young squad we're working with this season. And after I did all that, I realised I didn't have any central midfielders really. Apart from Ovenden, we were very, very light for central midfield players. So at that point, we scrambled around a bit and brought some in. I managed to renew Chris Gallagher's contract. He was on loan at us last year. Did all right. He'll be back for another year. So he's going to partner Ovenden in midfield. But then I didn't have anyone else at all. So I kind of just filled in gaps that I had no backup players on wide in midfield. I had no backup players centre of midfield. So we've brought in Lewis Clutton, who's an 18-year-old who can play central midfield. He's not good enough for our first team, but he has potential, and he fills a body on the bench. And that's a bit of a theme with these loans. I feel like I might have wasted the loans a little bit, but we kind of just needed cheap bodies. Owen Eggington, another one, can play central midfield. Not great. He's on loan from Kidderminster. Alfie Kilgore can play centre-back or right-back, and he's almost as good as what we've got in the rest of the squad. I mean, he's almost as good at right-back. He's almost as good at centre-back. So as a kind of reserve player in both of those positions, he'll do. And he hasn't had to travel very far because he's come from Bristol Rovers. Sam Minahan, I'm really happy with this guy as a loan signing. He appeared on my radar quite late, 24 years old, from Stockport. Played all last year for Stockport in the Conference North, and Stockport had a good season last year in the Conference North, and he's going to come in and be our first choice right back, which is kind of lucked out a little bit with him, and then carried on with just filling the squad with youngsters who might get a game at some point. So as a backup for Compton on the left-hand side, we've got Dylan Fixter, who comes in on loan from Coventry. And then lastly, as a backup on the right-hand side of midfield, Jack Henchcliffe, really starting to scrape the barrel at this point. 2-star current ability, comes in on loan from Notts County. So we have just about got 2 players for every position. A couple of those positions, they're very young players who we don't want to have to use. But I think this is what we're going to be doing. Now, we spent most of the summer trying to get a 4-4-2 working, but Josh Doty, who's another one of our best players, he's a Canadian international, 21 years old, 4-star current ability, 5-star potential. He can, in theory, play up front. He really can't. 8 friendlies, no goals, no assists, a 6.7 rating. He cannot play as a striker. So right at the last minute, we've switched things up to do a 4-4-1-1, which is a bit of a problem because it means at the moment Danny Mills isn't in our side because Lewis Robles has had a decent summer and scored a lot of goals for us last year. So Danny Mills is going to start the season as an impact player, despite already describing him as my complete forward. And I don't know, we might end up doing something that involves 2 strikers with Doty in behind. You know how much I love a front 3 with 2 strikers and a man in behind. But then we're going to lose the impact of these wide players, and I think they're major strengths for us. We don't really have much of a central midfield, so I don't know. We'll figure something out. But this is our team. I've tried to capitalise on the fact that we are a decent passing side. If we go on the team report, despite a lot of churn of players, we are still considered to be impressive standard of passing, good at through balls, and we can't do aggression. We can't do... I mean, we've fixed the heading problem with the signing of Danny Mills. Some decisions we struggle a little bit with, so we don't do anything too complicated. We're not very aggressive, but we are still a strong passing side. So I'm trying to stick to a passing system. We're going to start with standard flexible and work with that from there. Short passing, we're going to exploit the left flank because that's where our best player is, so we may as well exploit it. But I want to be closing down more and playing at a higher tempo just to try and make up for that lack of oomph that they've got as a team. That might be the opposite of what I should be doing. Perhaps because they're not very good at that stuff, we should be playing at a lower tempo and not closing down at all and just trying to pass the ball around them. But we'll leave them on for now and see what we want to do with them. And this is our team. So we've got Nathan Ashmore in goal. You've already met him. Sam Minahan at right back. You've already met him. If you want to dig into these players in any more detail, obviously just pause as we get to them on screen. Lionel Stone, we talked about in the last episode. He's a non-league to legend veteran from a couple of years ago. Our best centre-back at the club by a long, long stretch. He's been here for a season now, having been at Chelmsford and Boston and never really making a breakthrough. But I don't see why he hasn't done. He's a very good defender. So he's going to be pretty much a nailed-on starter at centre-back for us. And he's going to be partnering Jack Batten, it's the only existing partnership we've got at the club, because Batten was here last year. He's been here for a few years, actually. And he's going to partner Stone at the back. And then new boy Adam Osborne, who you've already met, he's going to be our left-back. Elvis Otim, you've already met him, right-hand side of midfield. Ovenden, you've already met him in central midfield, playing as a Carrilero. Not because I'm trying to be really fancy, but because he seems to want to do it. I wanted him to be a box-to-box midfielder, but he can't really do that. Carrilero, I think, is a similar job, but he doesn't go all the way in either direction, just kind of shuffling about in that kind of area. So still being a bit mobile, still linking up with Doty, hopefully. We'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, we'll stop using it. But central midfield seems to be his jam. But same with Gallagher. So Chris Gallagher is the guy who was on loan here last year. He's going to be playing as a central midfielder on defend, because it's just about all he can do. I would prefer him to be a deep lying playmaker, or, I don't know, even a ball-winning midfielder, just someone who naturally sits a bit more defensively, but meh, he can't do it. And then Jack Compton, left-hand side of midfield, winger on attack. We want everything to go through this guy. We want him up here for most of the game, but don't want to risk having him pushed too far forward. I mean, that's why we've got this guy on defend to just literally sit there. He's a centre-back who can play left-back and will just sit there. Whereas on this side, Otim's going to be on support, less pushing forward a little bit less, so I have Minahan going a little bit further forward, because Minahan is a good free kick specialist and decent crosser of the ball, so we want him a little bit further up the pitch anyway. And then we've got Doty, who you've met, as an advanced playmaker on attack, in behind Robles as a striker. We're giving the guy in possession the chance to prove that he deserves to still be in the team. He's only 5'10" though, although he's quick and scored decent amount of goals last year. If he doesn't start the season really, really well, Danny Mills is very much breathing down his neck, and the bench is filled up with a lot of our youngsters, including an awesome young utility player, Miles Welch-Hayes, can play anywhere across the back four. And that's exactly the kind of player that we need when we don't have very many players. So that's what we're attempting to do. I have set up set piece instructions even. I mean, look, Kev's trying to be a proper grown-up here. We messed up Alfreton. We don't want to mess up with Bath as well. We want to do this job properly. So apologies for the in-depth tactical and transfer discussion for those of you who just like a bit of smash and grab. But now we will get into the match. So here we go. And after all that, you can guarantee we're going to get stuffed about 4-0. And all of the... I mean, we've got so many debuts in the team as well, which is terrifying. If we just have a look at debuts being made today. Those two, 4. Okay, so it's actually only 4 debuts. That's not as bad as it could have been. Matching up against Concord, playing with a 4-3-3. So we're top of the league at the moment. Hopefully we'll stick to that all season long. So we're the ones in the black and white stripes. The Romans. I haven't got my Roman Reigns figure yet, but I have ordered one. So Roman Reigns will very soon become the mascot of the save for as long as we're at the Romans. And every time we score, we're going to go, woo! Or whatever noise it is. Right, if you don't like wrestling, I apologise. I'll stop talking about it now. Right, what's happening? We've not had a shot on target yet. We've not had much possession. And we've not had a highlight. None of that is that positive to start things off. We've got a few players looking nervous. And are we really going to get all the way through to half-time without even seeing a highlight? Jack Compton now booked as well, but still very little happening. Okay. Well, I'm kind of glad I talked for 25 minutes on the tactics and transfers if we're going to have a 2-minute match. Well, 0-0 at half-time. Remember, we're pushing for the playoffs. It's a slightly different mentality to what we had last year. Last year, whenever we were away from home, I would have been all right with a draw. But now I'm kind of thinking we need to be winning most of our matches to be able to finish where we're supposed to be finishing. Right, there you go. Finally get a tactic. Gallagher picks it up in midfield, plays it to Doty, who loses out on the ball. We need to be keeping an eye on him, because if he's not going to be a chance-creating genius in there, Danny Mills is ready to come on and be a front two with Robles. And, we're 1-0 down, and we've not had a shot on target yet. We've only had 2 shots in the entire game. I don't know if this short passing thing... I mean, we've not even seen it in action yet. But we don't seem to be creating anything. We need to get the ball forward a little bit more. And we're not. Let's not panic yet. We'll give it half a dozen games, but we've already got... I haven't shown you dynamics. I'll show you that in a second. We've already got a dressing room who don't like me. because they wanted someone with more experience who wasn't a failure. And if we don't start the season well, we're going to lose him completely and get sacked in no time. Right, let's get Danny Mills on, because I have high hopes for Danny Mills. So we'll get him on up front. What does he want to be? You be a poacher then, Danny. And this is where we start to weaken the team with every change. Should I have brought Mills on for Doty and gone 4-4-2? There's still no undo button on this screen, is there? Right. Undo. Because that's what I want to do. I want to bring Mills on for Doty. And I want Danny Mills to be a target man. And do that. And now we'll also take off Otim, bring on Hinchcliffe. And leave it there for now. And we'll go to control. We just need to... I would like to finish the game having had a shot on target. That would be a nice touch. Right, it looks like it's their highlight again, which is troublesome. We still haven't... Oh, we have... Suddenly, we've had 4 shots on target, and the game just didn't feel the need to show us them. So something's changed. Compton with the corner, and it's nodded down by Batten, but it went in the wrong direction. Overton picks it up. Hinchcliffe, back to Minahan, to Overton again. Can we get the ball into the area? Hinchcliffe does. Danny Mills is there, all 6'5" of him. Look at the size of that man. And it was a really poor header, actually. I mean, what use is there having a giant on the pitch if he just heads it the way he just headed it? Hinchcliffe, forward again to Robles. Mills is taking his time getting into the middle. And, that was frustrating, because if he'd have just put... I mean, he's supposed to be quick. If he'd have put a bit of a shift in there and got into the penalty area, it would be 1-1, because he wasn't going to mess up his header again, surely. I want to put a lot of pressure on him, because we're spending a lot of money on him. Right. Last substitution, we'll bring on the youngster Joe Cook for Jack Batten, because Jack Batten not having the best of games, and he upset me with that weird header from the corner. So if we get another corner, hopefully Joe Cook will be less weird. I think we've improved massively since we've gone 4-4-2, looking at all the stats. But it's slow improvement, and that was a really tame, disappointing, timid first day of the season. We didn't look like world beaters, did we? And now we've got to play against St Albans, a team we could have gone to manage. Before we end the episode, I'll just show you dynamics. So match cohesion. Dressing room atmosphere is good, but managerial support is poor, because they don't convince. I'm not convinced them with my lack of experience. So yeah, we've got a little bit of work to do. Compton's our team leader, and then we don't have much in the way of influence behind that. So let me know down in the comments, did you like the look of the 4-4-2, the 4-4-1-1? I know we didn't really see masses of either of them, but they're the two that I'm going to persist with for a little while until I find a way to start winning. Fingers crossed. That's exactly what we will start doing on the next episode, which, remember, will be on Monday. Non-League to Legend, Monday to Friday this year. So in the 4 PM slot over the weekend is going to be Backing the Borough. If you're not caught up with that series, go and catch up with that series. It's the end of the season, I think, if I recall. If I've got the episodes in the right order, you'll find out whether or not we got promoted or not. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for brand new Football Manager content at 4 PM and 9 PM every day. And thank you very much for watching.